Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We also appreciate you liking and sharing this program so that your friends can join in the conversation. Also, please remember to go to fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It is a very cool place to go to find all sorts of things in order to help show your support for the Second Amendment. If you are looking for T-shirts, we've got T-shirts. If you're looking for hoodies, we've got hoodies. If you're looking for coffee mugs, guess what? We've got coffee mugs. We've got all kinds of things. And the great thing about it is you know that every penny that you spend will go right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So that's FPC Gear, a place where you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. All right. It's time to have the talk. It's time that we finally had the talk. For the most part, I try to be, really kind of positive when we have these conversations. Whenever we're talking about guns and gun rights and we're talking about the fight here in the state of California. In case you guys haven't noticed, the shit's about to hit the fan here in the state of California. Not only did we just have another mass shooting in the state of California, state with some of the strictest gun laws in the entire country. You know what happens with that, right? You know what happens you know what follows that, right? A whole slew of anti-gun legislation. Every time. Now, it really isn't going to matter whether or not that legislation would have actually stopped whatever the situation was that happened. In fact, they don't even bother to pretend anymore. They actually admit that, yes, no, this probably wouldn't have stopped that shooting. This probably won't stop most shootings. But they say we've got to do something. They say we've got to do something. As if to say, well, gee, my car won't start. So let's change the tires because we've got to do something. Now, you add to that the fact that we have elected what will likely be the most anti-gun governor California has ever seen in Gavin Newsom. This is a person who has made his bones, who used as a way in which to get his name out there. He used the rights of gun owners by putting together a piece of an initiative that had a piece of shit initiative. That's the word I was looking for. A piece of shit initiative that brought together a bunch of ideas that even the legislature and the liberal governor of California thought, yeah, no, these aren't good ideas. And he brought them together. He put them in an initiative and well, quite frankly, conned Californians into voting for it. And so now we have a steaming pile of dung called Proposition 63 that the California Department of Justice is still 2.5 years later, still trying to figure out how to implement. 2 years later, they're still trying to figure it out. Anyway, having said that, it's bad. Now, after the most recent shooting, what took place is one of the things that takes place all the time. Every time, generally when there is a mass shooting, people decide, you know what, enough is enough. I cannot count on my government to protect me. Which, by the way, and then once again, I'm not trying to be Mr. Anti-government, yada, yada, yada. Let's just be real. The courts have already ruled that law enforcement does not have an obligation to protect, to defend or protect you. They don't. Their job is to enforce the law. But even with that, you have a fundamental right and responsibility to protect yourself. And oftentimes when the law enforcement is minutes away when seconds matter. And so it's important, and people are waking up to realize it's vitally important for me to be able to defend myself. So what happened after the shooting that took place in Thousand Oaks is people went and they're buying firearms. You look here. This is a visual that I got from an article in Bloomberg. Yes, I got it from Bloomberg. But it shows exactly what it is that I wanted you to see. You notice after each of these mass shootings, you notice that there is a spike in gun sales. Well, why is there a spike in gun sales? That, once again, is because people have come to recognize, if for a brief moment, they've come to recognize that they have an obligation to protect and defend themselves. And such is the case. Such is the case in Thousand Oaks. There was recently an article that I saw on Truth About Guns. It's talking about many Californians rushing to the gun store, never tell their friends they own a gun. And this is the thing. So that's one of the things that's happening. So these folks are going to this gun store. It's after the Borderline shooting. There's a gun store called Von Collins Gun Store, or VC Defense. It is the only gun store in Thousand Oaks. And his store has been flooded with people who are seeking to purchase firearms in order to be able to protect and defend themselves. But folks, here's the thing. California already has about at least 8 million gun owners. 8 million gun owners. Now, let's just be honest. Many of those people who own guns are not pro-Second Amendment. They're people who, on a whim or out of fear, decided, I need to go get a gun. And they maybe shot the firearm one time. They haven't taken any training. They're not probably not huge believers in the Second Amendment. And mostly they keep their firearm sitting either in some drawer or on some shelf in their closet. And it's collecting dust and grime. But it's not something, in other words, just because you own a gun doesn't mean that you are a supporter of the Second Amendment. But in California, it's even worse. It's like people are stuck in the closet, in the gun closet, as an example. It's almost like people are ashamed to tell you that they own a gun or that they own a firearm, or even worse, if they like shooting their gun, if they feel good about their gun, if they don't want anyone to take away their Second Amendment rights. But in many cases, they're just scared. That I tell you, I go to the Capitol and I get people all the time, Democratic staffers who will tell me, who work for, by the way, some of them who work for anti-gun members, who will tell you, well, I own a gun, or my husband owns a gun, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. I'll talk with whether it's some of the sergeants or even some of the highway patrol officers when I'm going in that watch Coffee with Craig, and they'll tell me they see the craziness that's going on in this building, and I tell you, I really appreciate the rank and file law enforcement officers, because they support our right to keep and bear arms. They don't like a lot of the stuff that's going on when even though they get exempted from it, they believe in the right to keep and bear arms for the average citizen, because guess what? That includes their wife or their husband. That includes their son or their daughter, their mother, their father, their brother, their sister, their aunts, their uncles. That includes their family. They want their family to have access to the same rights that they do. And they think it's a travesty when they see it. I've talked with folks who work with these people when they create these laws, and they're like, these people are idiots. They are morons. They come in and they ask, well, how do we go about doing this? We want to do this. And despite all of the information that is provided to them about why this is a bad idea, they still go forward and they do it anyway. And they do it because they think that all of you out there, that the people of California are with them. And what they don't understand is that there's a lot of people in California that are not with them. They're just scared. They are cowering in their gun closet and they are scared. Well, folks, right now, this is D-Day. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where, as Californians, California gun owners, if you are someone who believes in the Second Amendment, now's the time for you to come out of the gun closet. If you own a gun and you want to continue to be able to own that firearm in order to be able to protect yourself, your family, your home, your property, your place of business, it's time for you to stop sitting around with your head in the sand. It's time for you to peek your head out, open that gun closet, Time for you to come out. Time for you to stand up and say, you know what? This stuff is just stupid. We already have most of the laws that the rest of the country says that the rest of the country, that the anti-gunners say the rest of the country say they want. We already have those things in place. We have background checks in place. Hasn't stopped shootings. We have a 10-day wait period. Hasn't stopped the shootings. We have restrictions on the type of semi-automatic firearms you can buy. Hasn't stopped it. Tell you what has stopped. I tell you what is interesting though. What is interesting is that gun laws haven't gotten any easier, but for some reason, violence is going up. Crime is going up. Gee, I wonder why that is. It wasn't because of the gun laws. It's because the very same people who are trying to take away your right to keep and bear arms are putting criminals back on the streets. They're letting them out of prison, and then they're wondering why crime is going up. And they're blaming gun owners. They're putting the onus for fixing and dealing with this problem, they're putting it on gun owners. Because what they're telling gun owners is, we are going to make you less safe, and then we are going to prevent you from being able to defend yourself. Gavin Newsom has already made it clear. Governor-elect Gavin Newsom has already stated that we have not gone far enough. Having the strictest gun laws in the entire country is not far enough as far as Gavin Newsom is concerned. There's a lot of stuff that we were able to get Jerry Brown to veto that made it through the legislature. And don't get me wrong, we were able to kill a lot of stuff in the legislature, but there's also some stuff that got through the legislature that is really bad, that will make it to the governor's desk now. And they're already reintroducing it. You've got one member already saying, hey, I'm going to reintroduce my expansion of gun violence restraining order so that just about anybody can have your gun rights taken away. No due process. That is what is coming down the pike. So, folks, look, California, and by the way, those of you outside of the state of California, don't bother putting in the thread, you need to just get out of California. Because I'm going to promise you this. Number one, I'm not into cutting and running. This is my home. If someone were seeking to invade my home and make my family unsafe, I would fight them. So no, I'm not just giving up my home. But understand this. When the time comes that California does truly fall and completely and utterly loses our right to keep and bear arms, let me just be real with you. It's not going to stop here. Ask the people in Washington. Ask the people in Oregon. Ask the people in Nevada. Watch what they're about to go through. Ask them. They'll tell you, because what's happening is this. A lot of people are leaving California. They're not just leaving because of the liberal politics. They're not just leaving because of the anti-gun politics. They're leaving because it's too damn expensive to live here. And so they, with their anti-gun policies, are going to other states. And when they get there, they are going to want to elect the same sort of politicians who are going to want to put in the same sorts of policies. And then you're going to be looking to other states. You're going to be like, please help us. And you know what they're going to say? Oh, well, you should just move. That's what they're going to say. So, California, hey, now's the time to do it. It's time to come out of the gun closet. It's time to stand up, time to be heard, and let people know that this is a fight for our civil rights. Because as I always say, we have got to use them or we will lose them. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you later.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.